You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am Brian Call. I've got Brad Hunt here beside me today, and we just got back from our first spring bear hunt of 2024.
Fun trip. Good trip.
It's a good trip.
Yeah, it was cool.
When it's good, you get back and you sort of, I don't know, it's like life's surreal. Like you come back and you're back in the normal swing of, family and work and emails and so on. But at the same time, you just sit there and you're kind of like calm about life.
Mm-hmm. And it's like a reset. It really is.
Yeah, it's like,
the reset of life, the social media, the text, the phone calls, like especially when you don't have service.
Yeah.
Like there's only a select few people that were texting through the inReach. The rest of the time is nobody can bother me.
We need to get into the hunt a little bit because my inReach fried. That's a story we're going to get into.
Yeah.
Something I learned, you spend enough time in the mountains, you start to learn there's little things you thought you had to figure it out, and then you realize you don't.
Then you go 7 days without sending a text message.
Yeah.
Or checking the weather or whatever. But
yeah. So we're going to talk about that, catch you all up on that hunt. We're going to talk about, the things we learned, some lessons there. And we're going to talk about carnivore on an episode.
Another podcast.
Because we've been eating different for quite a while now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say February, March, April, May. For me.
Yeah, you're about the 110 days, 100 days.
Yeah.
I guess March 1st was so I'm whatever that is, March, April.
Yeah. We're getting a lot of questions about it. And
60, 70 days, 75 days.
More knowledge now than we had before to share with you on how that's going.
For sure.
But let's back up. Let's get into just the hunt itself, hunting bear. Back to this topic of being home after a hunt like that, where we were gone essentially about 12 or 14 days.
Yeah, with travel
field.
And stuff, about 14 days. In the field itself, about 10, 11.
Yep.
Something like that.
There is something about it where if you haven't spent that many consecutive days in the mountains by yourself, I wasn't solo. I mean, you were there, but I mean, what I mean is isolation, just you and you're focused. You're focused on the hunt, nothing else.
Correct.
When you're out there, it's just goal oriented. And then when you do find the animal and then you do take the animal and you pack it out, that whole experience does something to you. That's hard to describe if you've never done it. It's not like going out for the weekend either. It's this consecutive period of time. But I would describe this as something where the things that would normally sort of catch up to me or frustrate me or annoy me or make me feel stressed or whatever, job, house, career, family, kids, whatever. It's so strange when I come back, when you're out there, you're boiled down to staying alive, somewhat comfortable.
Yep.
You just need food, water, energy.
Yep.
To do the climbs, to execute, shelter, sleep. Yep. Like you're boiling your day-to-day life. It doesn't matter what emails happen or didn't happen. Right. It doesn't matter what the kids or nothing else matters except for these real core parts of existence.
Yeah.
And when you spend enough time just focused on those core parts of existence, it's like it cleanses your soul and brings you down to this level of knowledge about life and who you are that makes all the other stuff come into perspective sharply.
Yep.
And you go, that stuff really doesn't matter that much. Hey, if you like our show and you want to support us, you can do that by shopping at Stealthy Hunter, a great partner of ours. They sell rifle covers, which we use on every single hunt. They sell glassing pads. They sell supplements. They got CBD gummies, other products over there. Check it out. Make sure you use the code GRITTY And now back to the show.
Right, exactly. And I, just from my personal experience, like I recommend somebody doing this too, is like we get to spend a lot of days out hunting.
Mm-hmm.
On the other end of it, my wife is home with the kids and the everyday life and all the busyness. And we've done this a few times. Is like, yeah, I get to go on my hunts, but she also like once or twice a year, she'll go on like a 10 or 12 day trip with her friends and family.
Yeah.
Where she kind of gets that same reset because again, we spend 100 days or so out in the year. I mean, she's awarded those 10 or 12 at least, again, for her to reset. And I think that is a well-oiled machine for balance and just to really allow us to do what we do a lot.
I would differentiate, though, between living outside and
absolutely
being disconnected and hunting in terms of
yes.
Like we can all take a break, go out to something, go vacation.
Yep.
And we all need that. But when you go out and you
are surviving
and you're surviving,
correct,
alone,
it's totally different.
Like I heard Joe Rogan talk about this one time. He just got back from a hunt, and this is, keep in mind, Joe didn't spend his life in the wilderness.
Yeah, right.
So it's all novel to him. And having done it and coming back, he on this one episode, he said the hot water meant more. The thermostat meant more.
Mm-hmm.
The refrigerator meant more. Ice cream, like all the comforts that we take for granted in civilization, all of a sudden there was a deep sense of gratitude for it. The shower felt like so much more. And when you're out and grinding and you're that nasty and you come home and you get in the shower, it's like there's something about that puts things in perspective, I think.
Yeah.
In a way that a vacation helps you unplug, but hunting does something different.
Oh, it is. It's totally different, especially where there's the surviving. We get back in these really remote.
It's a denial of comfort.
Correct. Like, I mean, especially when you get dropped off remote Alaska or even in the lower 48 states, there's not the luxuries of being able to call 911 directly and have somebody there within 15 minutes. I mean, it's days. And food, like if you run out of food, which we've done a lot, it's like we have fasted quite a bit. I think us doing that, there's a sense of security. Like, okay, I know how long my body can go without food. Obviously, water is more important. So having multiple sterilization stuff. But man, it is a total mind reset where you are solely focused on those few things to just survive.
Yeah, and I'd say one thing we've talked about on hunts where just people have spoken to us about how difficult it is for them to stay in the field for so many days. What a grind.
Yep.
And I've mentioned this before. Some of that is just the denial of comfort is not something people are used to. So I've met people and I highly respect, we go to the gym, like a CrossFit gym, we do some workouts, and I've seen a dude pour his heart and soul,
right,
like to the point of vomit, puking afterward, and do some things, that feats of energy and willpower that are impressive.
Yeah.
Same person goes out on the mountain with me and is a little bit cold, wet, bored, a little bit hungry, craving now something more than just the same food 3 days in a row.
Right.
Wants some frickin', dessert. What I mean?
Some heat.
Some heat, a hot bath, never felt that grimy. Well, all of those things turn out to be something that this, badass grinding, like tough person actually can't handle the denial of comforts, which is a completely different kind of test.
Oh,
and it's shocking. Then you'll find the guy who can barely get themselves through the gym, but that person can do whatever it takes on the mountains step by step. They have to starve to death.
It's true.
So I think it's just interesting. It's just on my mind because we just got back from this trip, but we went basically into the Northwest, coastal bears, black bears, into some country that was just really, really rugged and you're talking old growth timber and
Yes.
your mountain goats and
Mm-hmm.
cliffs,
Cliffs,
waterfalls, snow.
And overall environment just super wet, super humid. We got a lot of rain, especially those first 4 days of the hunt. I mean, it was nonstop rain.
Giant Roosevelt elk,
Yep.
black-tailed deer.
Black-tailed deer, bear.
And Brad found some sheds that were truly just spectacular.
They are
some elk sheds.
They are big Roosevelt elk sheds.
And
they're big.
So what I want to talk about is, because we've talked about bear hunting a lot, I just want to sort of touch on what were the things that were unique to this trip, perhaps in some ways, or just things fresh in our mind that are, well, we're fresh from the hunt, that are sort of lessons learned. Like, oh, here's another season, another experience, another adventure under our belt. What is it that I'm walking away from this hunt having learned anew? Maybe I've learned it before. I had to learn it twice, 3 times, 5 times. But what's fresh in your mind is logged out, it went away, Brian.
Yep. One for me was, because I've never been in like a super, like really, really wet moisture situation. Like I've been in wet stuff, obviously, the rain, the snow and stuff like that. But as far as I would say my clothing breakdown, I wasn't as prepared. Like I was fine. I didn't get soaked. My down was not a big issue, but it could be of concern.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to regulate the moisture. And we obviously had a stove that we could dry out if we really needed to. We ended up not running the stove much.
Wood stove
in the teepee, in the hot tent. But
we brought it with us and we didn't use it one time.
No.
But that's a reflection of our woodsman skills.
Correct. And I would say like I was pretty aware because I had my wool top, and then I had another top that was like a wool blend.
Yeah.
And so I was comfortable that way. But when it got real cold and it was still really wet, the only thing I had obviously for like lower pants was my regular down puffy pants.
Yeah.
Goose down. Same with like my puffy down jacket. And that could be a big concern for, especially if somebody doesn't have a lot of experience with that wet water, wet moisture. Because the down, when it gets wet like that, it's almost of no use whatsoever.
That was fresh in my mind from hunting Alaska last year.
Yep.
Where, it's a similarly just constant rain and cold.
Yep.
Those conditions can be brutal if you're not good at your woodcraft and your gear isn't dialed in.
Yep.
So, like you said, Brady came. He brought puffies, but he didn't bring that mid layer.
Gotcha.
On that moose hunt. The film, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's called "It's Just Work."
Yep.
I'm wearing the T-shirt right here from the film. But the down, there's some layers that just don't work well in the rain.
No,
down is one of them.
Correct.
Especially when it's that wet, kind of all the time, perpetual. Now, I'll always bring the down because the weight to warmth ratio is ridiculous.
Correct.
It's practically not worth leaving. It's so lightweight, but it does need to be in a dry sack. Yep. To try to keep it, and it does need to be kept dry.
Yep. And that's the big thing. It's like for me, instantly right away, like as soon as I put my puffy pants on, I knew no matter what, because even just sitting on the ground, it's so wet.
Yep.
Whether it was raining or not raining, my rain pants went on over top of them right away.
Yep. And so you can manage it somewhat. You can, like you did, putting rain pants over it or rain jacket, trying to keep your puffy layer dry.
Yep.
But in these conditions, it's almost like mist. It just works its way in, and it's just like the rain, just sort of, and the moisture just ever present.
Yep.
And eventually, that down takes on some moisture. It gets a little wet, and once it does, it loses all R value. Like it just turns into a useless piece of gear.
Correct. A heavy piece of gear.
It just gets wet, and then it goes flat, and it's not warm at all.
Yep.
And once a down piece is soaked, it's virtually useless.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's the Achilles heel of down gear.
Yep.
What I brought on this trip, similar to what I brought on the moose hunt, was wool, and I wore my merino wool like I always do.
Yep. Me too.
And so I got that next to skin base layer merino wool, and then on top of that, and I'm using the Mountain Ops Battleground hoodie.
Yes.
I have worn that for years.
Yep.
Brad, you had the lighter weight one.
I had the lighter weight one, yeah, which is I think 180 gram. Because I think
mine's a 180. I think that one's even lighter. I don't know.
Maybe.
But mine has the pocket. It's the lightest weight one they make with the pocket. Yours doesn't have the pocket.
Yep.
I've worn that one. It's a little too light.
Yes, I like it.
It's a little too light. It's like, what's the point? But regardless, we're both wearing a merino wool
base
hoodie layer against our skin. And then on top of that, I mostly wore that Duckworth hoodie.
Yeah. And
I have a large and I have a medium. And I'm actually finding that I don't like wearing the large. It's too baggy and catches, and it's just big. And the medium's a little too tight.
Yeah.
But
for some reason, so I tried your medium on.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. We've done this a lot. Like you're obviously much bigger upper body, but I think the structure wise, I don't know what it is. But same thing. Like if I try and wear a medium t-shirt, it just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And I put that medium on, and it's way too tight under the armpits for me. That's like the one place it's always like the arm length is whatever.
Yeah.
But that underneath, really tight underneath the armpits, I can't do it. So I end up sticking with the large.
It's tight under mine too. I just don't care.
I can't do it.
I don't care. Like what I don't want is all this material from the chest down just swinging in the wind and hanging out and catching on everything. I don't like the baggy sleeves. I like it like against my skin.
Yep.
All the way around.
Right.
And but you know, that was a sort of I bought that for my wife.
Yeah.
And my large just I don't know, I ended up wearing hers one day and I'm like, this is kind of comfortable. And then I went ahead and wanted to test that size on this trip.
Yep.
I was in it constantly. I loved it. I like that it's like not bulky and I prefer that size.
They just need to make that
better.
cut with about 2 to 3 inches longer in the arms. And
we'll
probably
it's
be
short
good.
for me.
Yeah.
And I have short arms.
Exactly.
I prefer something right in between the large and the medium, actually.
Yep.
But, you know, I think when you see someone wearing it, it's like when Lampers wears his, he's got that big baggy sweater thing going.
And I'll tell you what, like the cut of it now is much better than when they came out in 2012, 2013 when I got mine. Like, because I used to wear it feeding cows, ranch work, stuff like that, because it was cold outside. Yeah. And I had there was a different, I don't even know if they make it anymore. It's like just a regular pullover shirt. Mm-hmm. I used to wear that a lot too in those cold temperatures, but the cut is definitely much better now than it was 10, 12 years ago, for sure.
I mean, the sweat too would wick away better.
Yep.
The tighter fit just for me was much more enjoyable. I found myself never taking it off.
Yep.
In this hunt, on this hunt. So that piece was essential. The other thing that I wore the Kuyu. I don't remember what those pants are. They're a heavy.
Oh, they're the heavy, yeah.
They're the proximity pants.
I can't remember what they're called.
Maybe you can look it up, but they were too warm. They were great when it was snowing on us because it did snow on us and it was nasty and they're fine. And they're just, I knew they were too warm and I thought I had the katana in there and I didn't in my baggage. And when we drove in, I was like, Brad, I got the heavy duty pants.
No, they're not the Axis hybrids. They're
warm. They're too much. They're felt inside. They're too much.
Yep.
But, so I had wished I had brought the katana, which is my favorite pant. You wear the Eberly stock.
Yep. I've been wearing both. I've tried the katanas a few times. I've tried the Stone Glaciers. I've tried the Eberly stocks.
I don't like stones.
I don't like stones. I don't like the fit. I don't like the no mesh with the air zipper as well. Mm-hmm. The problem I've had with like the katana or the attack pants for me is if I go up a pant size, they're way too big on my waist. And if I go the correct size for my waist, way too tight on my butt, thighs, and calves. And I think just because of the length of my leg.
I like the material. Maybe the cut's not ideal.
I love the material. But that's the Everly stock pants are, like I said, that's kind of what I've been wearing back and forth. I actually had a King's camo top that's like I think it's a merino slash.
I'm gonna try some King's
some
camo.
other
Yeah.
fabric, and I wore that almost every day. I wore it in Mexico as well.
Well,
But
I think the other, so, the puffy thing versus a wool layer, I just think when you're in that wet environment, you need some of that wool layer that will keep you warm. Now, I've worn the Origin Stealth hoodie as well on some of these hunts.
Yep.
It's a little heavier and it's more durable than the Duckworth hoodie. It's got the front zipper, which is nice because you can unzip it and let some cold air in.
Yep.
I do like that piece as well. So the Origin Stealth hoodie is a good one. I don't feel like it's as useful for backpacking as maybe the Duckworth, but they're both great pieces.
Yeah.
And those would be my go-to for those kind of wet hunts. That hoodie's warm even when it's wet. A lot of people are asking about it. It's just a good piece. We the other thing that we did was gaiters, Peaks gaiters.
Yep.
They're the best gaiter out there, dude. The gaiter is essential for that kind of country. We've discussed wearing the gaiter under your pant versus over.
Yep.
Some people asked about that. If I'm trying to be quiet, sneak through brush, and it is wet.
Yep.
I don't want the gaiter rubbing on stiff bushes and stuff.
Exactly.
Put your pants over the outside of the gaiter. Also, I have a long rain jacket.
Yep.
I have a couple, but I have a long one. It's the Kodiak jacket from Sitka. It's like a dress. It comes down to like just above
almost
the trench coat.
Yeah.
If I wear that in gaiters, I don't need rain pants.
Right.
Like the water just goes down straight to the gaiter and to the ground. And I hate wearing rain pants. I hate rain pants. I hate rain pants.
Right.
If I did not wear rain pants, I try to, but there is a time and place for them.
Yep.
The point is, on a wet hunt like this, you really, if you can, you want some fresh rain gear.
Yes.
It lasts only so long. It gets wetted out and it wears out and it ain't waterproof anymore.
Right.
Not at the level you need it to be on a super wet hunt
Exactly.
like we were on.
Yeah, exactly.
And the final piece when it comes to the wetness is the tarp.
Yeah, never, like, no matter what, there's never a hunt we don't go without a tarp.
Right.
Because whether it's sun or rain, sunshine, you can use it as a shade tarp. Rain, obviously, protects you from the rain coming down. But we spent...
Be strategic in how you allow yourself to get rained on.
Yes.
When you're out there in your backpack, it takes time to dry out. It takes time to gather wood. It takes time to get wet wood to start in a wood stove. It takes time to pitch your teepee. It takes time to, everything fogs up, gets wet, cameras, so on. When all that humidity is inside, it's just like we were able to get dumped on.
Yeah.
But when it started to come down, we threw up our tarp.
Takes a minute to throw up the tarp and you're sitting underneath of it. You can still glass.
Climbed under it and we glassed for hours. Rain would stop. We took the tarp down, move on.
Yep.
The bears weren't moving anyway in that kind of rain, generally.
No.
We didn't see a single bear in the pouring rain.
No. And usually don't.
Almost never.
Almost never, unless you get like 4 or 5 days straight of consecutive rain every day. Then those bears are like, well, I need to go eat. They'll come out. But
so, and even then, it's pretty limited.
It's sporadic. One thing I will mention, because you mentioned the gaiters, is putting them under your pants. We get asked a lot, like, well, doesn't that rub on your skin or your calves? And I think with the Peaks gaiter, that's no, because it is fitted to your calf.
It's stiff too.
It's stiff.
It just
correct.
stays. No, that's not ever been an
I've
issue.
never, but I've been asked that so many times.
We look at those Kiwis and stuff.
They're wearing shorts.
They wear shorts and gaiters.
Exactly.
Exactly. Laura Zira.
Yeah, Laura Zara. Absolutely.
She wears shorts and gaiters.
Yep.
Everywhere she goes.
And he's butter.
Yeah. So I would say, like, no, wearing the gaiters. It's just people don't see it that much in their circles. Hunters don't see it that much, and so they don't think about it. But I learned from John Barklow, who did all the rewarming drills and trained the military, and then came and worked for Sitka and has been over their big game, got line for 5-6 years, maybe longer.
Yeah.
Maybe it's longer now, 9 years. And Barklow puts his pants often over his gaiters.
Yep.
There's a time and place for that.
Exactly.
So when your pants do get wet and they do wick down, I want that water wicking over my gaiter, not under.
Under, correct.
That's how you get your boots filled with water and damp.
Yep.
Now, if you bring Graxaw boot dryers, which we highly recommend, use the code GRITTY over there at Austin's shop at Graxaw. But if you use those boot dryers and you have a hot tent,
yes,
you're kind of dialed.
Yep.
If your boots get wet during the day, whatever, get a wood stove burning, dry them out. As it was, this was some serious rain. The bushwhacking was some serious bushwhacking.
Yes.
Everything was soaked. And yet, we were able to, with our gear, never need to use boot dryers and never actually need to fire up the wood stove.
The only day we actually really used the boot dryers was when it was a super warm day.
And I sweated them out.
And you sweated them out. Exactly.
Yep.
Threw the boot dryers on as we sat there with the sun shining for 20, 30 minutes.
It was the hiking and my boots got so sweaty. And then
Yep.
I shot a bear. And so I had all the nerves and adrenaline from that. And my feet just gush when I get adrenaline.
Yes.
And my boots were just drenched. And I put them on the next day and they were still drenched. And it was the afternoon. It was sunny. I'm like, Brad, I threw those boot dryers on there. And within 20 minutes, they had it nice and aired out and were dry. And I put them back on and out of the woods on that. But yes, being able to keep that stuff dry. We didn't even need to use the wood stove, even though we had it with us just in case.
Nope.
Because we were able to dry things out just throughout various days. And our rain gear, for example, would keep we managed it well.
Yes.
You put it on when you needed to, took it off when you needed to, wore the jacket when you needed to, wore the layers the way they should be worn. Yep. And we didn't really run into any issues. When your down stuff got a little bit flat,
yep,
we got a sunny day and it dried right out.
Exactly.
There was no need to so we had the wood stove in case we needed to, but just never quite.
It never got cold enough that it was like that
wet enough, really.
Never wet or cold enough to really.
Oh, it was cold enough. It was freaking cold. It was snowing. It was plenty cold enough.
It did get down at nights. It was getting down to mid-20s.
Yeah, but it was cold enough.
But it was like once I crawled in the sleeping bag, I didn't care.
Yeah. I mean,
but it never was a point that I was like, oh man, we have to run the stove to dry
wet
out
and cold.
Correct.
I didn't want to take the time to try to get all the wet Northwest wood and coastal wood.
Right.
It had been pouring rain for days.
Exactly.
I don't want to take the time to try to dry it out and get it started, even though that's what Alaska hunting was. And that's where I brought plenty of fire starter for this trip if I needed it.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And I had tons. Same here.
You just didn't need it. Back to the subject. I'm hoping people finding this kind of recap useful. Changing directions a little bit. Something that shot placement.
Yeah.
On bears.
Yep.
We have long talked about, air away from the shoulder.
Yes.
If shoot bears middle of middle.
Mm-hmm.
Take a big black blob that's broadside, cut it in half. The vitals sit further back, the lungs sit further back, and also it's just been our experience that even a bear shot back,
is a dead bear.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's actually like on my bear, one of my bears. I don't think I hit lungs.
No, it was back away.
It was like just behind lungs.
Yep, little wind travel or whatever, and it was a little further back. Same with my second bear.
It didn't go. My bear didn't go 50 yards downhill, 40 yards downhill, and it was piled up.
Exactly. Bears are, as we say, they're squishy in the middle.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of protection there, and I don't know what it is. They're not like an elk or a deer that...
Can't think of them like an elk or a deer.
No, because like an elk or deer, say it is a liver or a gut shot or something like that. I mean, you got hours and hours and hours of that animal suffering. It'll get sick. It's going to die.
Yeah.
But it's a long 8, 10, 12 hours.
Get in your head.
Bears are not like that.
To aim further back.
Yep.
Middle of middle. It's so devastating. And we confirmed that on 4 bears on this trip.
Yeah. And then when you do hit lungs on a bear, it's like no matter what, it's game over within seconds.
Yeah.
Like within seconds.
That said, we made a shot, and looking at the video, the shot placement wasn't exactly where we wanted it. We thought it was a little back, compared to it wasn't middle of middle. It was a little bit back, middle of middle.
Yep.
If anything, in the gut paunch area, which is not ideal. And so, something, by the way, that is worth mentioning for guys, a gut shot bear is going to die. A gut shot deer gut shot elk they're going to die. It's not a matter of if, it's just when.
When, correct.
It's a fatal shot. In the guts, it's fatal. Now, if they don't bleed to death in a shot in the chest cavity or forward or in the neck, the only thing that's going to cause them to die from that generally is hemorrhaging.
Yeah.
It's losing too much blood and they die.
Yep.
If that blood will stop and it heals, they're good. But in the gut, it's different. If you shoot an animal back there, there's too much toxins and too much bacteria and stuff and organs that need to function. It's not a simple matter of just healing and stopping the bleeding. No. It's a matter of critical parts of the animal being infected and dying of poison.
Yep.
And more or less, they just don't have the immune system to recover from, gut material leaking into the body cavity.
Yep.
And usually septic shock occurs and it's fatal. Sometimes animals can live for quite a while, but the bacteria, the poison, the toxicity of a gut shot is generally it's just fatal.
Yep.
On some animals, it might take weeks.
Yeah.
It might take hours on some, but on bears, it's been our experience that
it is.
They die in seconds.
It's quick.
So it's surprisingly quick. It's not septic shock that's causing that. That said, there have been some where the shot's a little back and the bear has gone further than we would expect. And this is thick country.
Yep.
Something that I've done multiple times now that has been effective is these bears are moving last light.
Mm-hmm.
Last light.
Yep.
If you remember watching the film with Red Lightning, where Ryan shoots Red Lightning, he thought it was too far back.
Right.
And so he was worried and the sun was going down. He's like, Brian, I don't know, man. I don't want to look for it in the dark. I don't want to push him. I don't know what to do. And the shot looked back.
Right.
So we backed out, got there as the sun was coming up.
Yep.
And then we found Red Lightning. He hadn't gone 40 yards.
Nope.
And was dead and piled up. Again, shot that was back and yet fatal within seconds.
Yep.
The bear, you're looking at it and you're thinking, man, I've left an elk overnight, found it the next day.
Yep. And even sometimes you've
go
the next day over 10 hours and you come back and that bull is still alive being gut shot. It's happened.
Yeah.
It happened to a
But
buddy of mine.
I've had animals shot that night, come back the next day and the meat is spoiled.
Yeah. Correct.
Right. So far, that has not happened with bears.
No.
At all.
I don't know.
I have not had any bear meat spoil yet.
No.
Having killed it the night before, it died within seconds.
Went all night.
Went all night. Looked all day the next day almost with my buddy's bear, Chad, on Principles Island. And found that bear had been dead for a long time. No meat loss.
Right.
So same thing with Red Lightning, no meat loss. So we made a decision on 2 bears on this trip, 2 out of 4.
Yep.
Looking at the shot, not sure, late, the sun is going down, to go ahead and come back.
Super steep country.
Leave it overnight.
Super thick.
And come back and look for the bear the next day.
Yep.
Worked just fine.
Yep.
Worked just fine. Meat was great. It didn't trap in the heat.
I know. We've talked about this. It's so weird because, yes, a bear, especially right now, the bears that we killed, they had so much hair. The hair was so long on those bears.
Beautiful
coats. But I don't know what it is with that hair and then the
hide is
thinner
paper
hide.
thin.
It's thin hide.
It's not like an elk or a moose.
Right. And I think that's what's allowing that to cool and breathe.
I don't know.
Is that thin hide.
I can just state from experience now, having done this probably 7 times, where a bear was recovered the following day.
Yep.
That never lost meat.
Yeah.
So, the best thing to do is to recover it and break it down immediately.
Right, exactly.
But if you're going to push the animal and you don't know where the shot was, backing out and looking for it in the daytime,
That's always the best.
that is the smart move.
Yep.
I mean, if it's going to live 2 hours from a liver hit or something, although I'm not convinced bears can. I'm not convinced they can.
Me either.
It's like something about their system. They're just so fragile in that regard.
Yeah.
You shoot them in the chest or like somewhere up front though.
Shoulder
miss the lungs.
on, and you miss the lungs.
Doesn't matter if you blow their leg off. They're dying.
I messed up years ago. This is like 2009 or 2010, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And I learned the hard way on a giant bear.
Yeah.
150 yards, smoked him with a 180 grain bullet, smoked him in the shoulder. And that bear, like 200, 300 yards, head over tail, off the cliff, down the mountain, and thought he was going to hit the bottom. And we watched him hit the bottom. And the next thing you know, he is taking off and he hits the face of the peak. And we're at like 9,300 feet.
Yeah.
He ends up going over the 10.5 peak that's right there where we happen to be. Goes over the top, runs over the top of it. And they're like, this is an October deer hunt, and had a bear tag in this area and trailed that bear for miles through like the top of the peaks and the snowshoots. There was snow in there. So we could see that there was a little bit of blood, but hardly any.
Yep.
And that bear continued to go, like I said, over 2.5 miles before we finally lost like any sign of blood. And he got back down on the backside where there was no snow. But that bear pulled that whole face of that hill, dropped
What's
down
the point
canyon.
of your story?
Don't shoot him in the shoulder. Like I've learned the hard way of not.
You never found the bear.
Never found the bear.
Yeah. No, I've every animal mostly every bear shot in the shoulder, chest region that I have seen. If you don't find that bear within 50 yards, you're never finding that bear.
Exactly.
It's gone. They don't really bleed out like a deer or an elk might.
Nope.
They seem to like clot up fairly easily. They don't bleed well.
No.
They got too much fur and fat and whatever going on. No, it's been my experience that if you have to go 200 yards, 300 yards and you're blood trailing and and the bear hasn't stopped, you didn't get him.
Not getting him.
You could track him 3 miles. You're not getting that bear. I've killed, I think I was telling you, something like 35 bears or something. I've lost track. Hey everybody, if you like the show and you want to support us, head on over to Mountain Ops. If you're in need of a new merino hoodie, or you want some workout clothes, or you just want a little pick-me-up. I like the Mountain Ops Ignite, especially like the pink lemonade flavor. It's a good one. I recommend that. Head on over to Mountain Ops, use the code GRITTY. You're going to save, and it's going to help us keep bringing you the show. Thanks for tuning in. Now, let's get back to the show. It's one of those things where I watch someone's YouTube video, and I see the shot, and I see where it goes into the bear, and I'm like, oh, gosh. They're not getting that bear.
No.
And sure enough, they don't get that bear.
Yeah, like you said, you shot 30.
Yeah, like 35 bears.
Yep.
And that doesn't include the other bears I've been on hunts with buddies and others that I've also been. Those are just bears I've taken.
Yep.
And when I look at that, looking at all that time, bears shot too far forward or in those areas, and any bear we didn't find within 50 yards of the shot, we never found.
Right.
So it's like with a bear, it's either dead or alive. Like there's not that in between, like with other animals where you run them down.
And again, it all goes back to why we say caution on the side of being further back on that bear than being too far forward.
Yeah.
Because I would say it's 100% any bear that has been shot further back is dead.
Yeah.
Is a dead bear.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking about this in all these years. I've yet to see a bear that I have yet to see a bear shot in the guts, or what you would traditionally think is the guts. That we haven't found. I'm not suggesting you do this.
Correct.
I'm just saying, like, anecdotally, I'm trying to think of that bear that got hit there and then went for miles and miles and miles and we never found.
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
It doesn't
It
exist.
does not exist.
No.
Now, in fairness, I haven't had that many experiences where the shot was back like that.
Yeah.
I can think of like 3 times.
Yep.
Including this trip.
Yep.
And that bear was dead within 40 yards.
Seconds, man.
Seconds. So I would be curious to know what some other guides and outfitters might have experienced over the years.
I'd be curious because
I do run across some guides and some YouTube videos where they're like, hit him in the shoulder.
break them down. Yep.
And if even when I watched recently, which I have tremendous respect for these guys, they've done a lot of bear hunting. But the comment was, I'd like them to hit them in the shoulder to break them down and drop them right where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to be quick with the follow-up.
Yep.
Because it's not a deadly shot.
Right.
You need the lung shot or the vitals, the organ shot to put them down. And I don't know, I find that a little bit risky in my opinion because they don't necessarily
there's nothing
just
vital up
drop.
there, and they don't just drop.
And it's not the lungs.
Yep.
And I don't understand it too because look, when you shoot them in the shoulder, you just blew up all that meat. Now, certain bears like POW bears and others, people can argue
bears.
about whether they're edible or not.
Mm-hmm.
But gosh, man, again, I go back to you want to drop a bear almost instantly. You know,
Smoke it in the lung.
Smoke it in the lung, middle of body.
Yeah. I mean, you have experience chasing those big grizz up there and stuff too, and it's like your grizz went like it was fast.
Mm-hmm.
It was a double lung shot, and that bear went dead.
And it was shot in the middle.
And shot in the middle.
Yeah.
No trailing, no tracking.
Yeah.
And lots of blood. But
yeah. It does make for an easier target too when you're dealing with a black blob.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Because figuring out where the shoulder is,
you don't see definition or anything.
It's hard to see that when it's just one big black blob. You see a head, you know.
Yeah,
but it's not. It's pretty easy when you can just crosshair that thing vertically and horizontally, and then put it there. Maybe move forward a little bit, but we don't even bother with that. We just go middle.
Go middle. Yep.
So that goes back to recovering an animal, leaving it overnight. That's something I had wanted to discuss. I think that's fine with the bear. The other thing was this, Brad, spending a lot of time searching 200 yards from 300 yards, 400 yards from where the bear was shot. Because back to what we said, if that bear's not dead within 50-yard radius of where you shot it, you're probably not finding it.
Probably not finding it.
So like we were in some thick country.
Yep.
What we should have done on one of these bears was we shouldn't have gone in. We should have just we should have looked for that bear in that 50-yard circle.
Yep.
And not spend any time outside of that until that was completely ruled out.
Yep.
And then once that was ruled out, we move on down and look for the bear, you know, in a region beyond that.
Yep. Right. I would say from the bear directly as the line was drawn straight across the mountain, I never probably got over 200 yards away from it. But man, we were trekking in some of that thick crap trying to find that bear. And
it's different hunting in the Northwest.
It is.
There's no question about it. It's not like hunting in the open country.
No.
The mountains you grew up in and so on.
Yep, totally different.
Another thing that I learned on this trip that I'll stick with me is, man, the Garmin InReach can overheat.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. I brought with me a KUIU proximity vest, which doesn't really breathe. It's like their tree stand vest.
Yep.
I knew we'd be sitting a lot in the cold, and I was going to bring a vest. I didn't need an active wear vest. Might throw it over the Duckworth or something. Yep. So I brought with me that vest. And by accident, I was charging the InReach with the battery pack, the dark energy pack. And it was just next to me in the dark as I was just throwing the charger on it before I went to sleep.
Yep.
And then I shuffled some things around and went to sleep. One of the things I did was take that vest off and just lay it down. Well, I laid it on top of the InReach.
Yeah.
When I woke up in the morning and I pulled I went to get the InReach, it almost burned my finger, my thumb. the glass was so hot that it almost, I mean, it was like hot on fire. I'm glad it didn't
catch
on fire.
Yeah, right.
And unplugged it, never came back on again. I mean, it took a minute to cool off. It was so hot, it fried it. Now I don't know why it wasn't wet. The port wasn't wet. There was none of that kind of stuff going on. I'm telling you, I think it just, and maybe under a down jacket, it would have breathed better.
It was so insulated underneath that jacket that it got too hot and fried it. Or, I mean, it's an older Garmin too. You've had it for a long time. It's been through the paces. It could have just wore out. We're unsure.
Yep.
Unsure.
But from now on, because of the type of hunts we do, Ryan brings 2 iPhones.
Yeah.
2 phones.
Right.
Like an old one.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little skinny, small, old one. He can do digiscope it and things like that. But it's also a spare.
Right.
If he needs to communicate Bluetooth through the inReach.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I own 3 inReach devices.
Yep.
I've never brought 2 with me at the same time. Generally, I give it to a buddy, or I'll let my dad use it, or someone else. But I have 3 of them for other people.
Yep.
And my wife, and I'll activate it, deactivate it, at different times. I have different plans for those. You got to tell you, Brad, the next time we're going in and we rely on external communication for pickups and things like that in remote places, I'm going to bring 2 inReach devices.
Yeah, I can't break myself to do it because I'm too damn cheap.
Yeah.
But
I'm doing it.
But there is a benefit there. Absolutely.
I mean,
2 is 1, 1 is none. Absolutely.
We're going in some of these places like this. I mean, the device isn't the issue. Buying the device, it's the
monthly membership.
But the one that I plan on having is backup with limited messages.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like you turn it on the week you go, and you pay it for 1 month.
Right.
And
a basic
it's
plan.
like $25.
Yep.
And then you turn it off when you get back. The other one, I have the unlimited plan and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I think from now on, a mini weighs nothing. Just a little bit extra hassle, but I'm bringing 2.
Yep.
Ryan brought us another brand, not a Garmin inReach. He brought something else as his backup the other day. It would just do some basic functions. I had a Spot back in the day.
Yeah.
But he wasn't that impressed with the other one. I don't remember what it is now.
I can't remember. It's not Zoleo. It's the other one. I've had friends. I've never used the Zoleo. I've had some friends that have used them quite a bit, back and forth. I think the best overall is the Garmin as far as functionality and getting messages in and out in areas. I think the Garmin is the better.
I've used the Explorer and the Garmin Explorer and the Garmin 66i.
Yep.
I don't know if they still make those, but I consider those more or less useless. Like, why bring all that bulk and size?
I know. I used to use the Explorer because I had all my maps on there. It's like I had the chip.
Yeah.
I had that state. I had all my stuff downloaded on it.
Those are weak maps.
They were.
When you compare them to what you get out of a smartphone.
Yeah, it was before all the other map companies were out. And so it was like, I took a paper map, and I remember sitting down with my dad. We take a paper map, and we would plot out like our private points or whatever, because there were some spots we were hunting private. So we'd plot that out on a paper map. I always carried the paper map with us, and we had the Explorer with it on there.
I think I might go bougie like Ryan. It's time for me to get a new phone.
Yeah, I think you're still rocking the old 11 Pro.
I have an old phone, so I'm just going to keep the phone that I have. I'm going to put it on a plan where it has almost where it's cheap. Yeah, and because it's already on the family plan. Get a new phone, and I think just because of the type of hunts we do, I'm going to have 2 phones, 2 inReach devices. And
it's not a bad idea.
Just for that potential.
Long as you have 2, I'll just keep 1.
Yeah, I mean that works too. I mean,
it's true.
Essentially, when I'm with Ryan or when I'm with you, we have 2 inReach devices.
Yep.
But there's no question. we like Ryan and I split up many times in Alaska.
Yeah.
And we went off solo here and there, and we'd be solo for 2 or 3 days and then regroup, just scouting and looking for over basins. And again, it's just smart. You know, it's just smart to have
back and forth with each other.
have a backup. The weight is insignificant. I would say the mini weight is insignificant. The phone, I think, is pretty insignificant too.
Yeah.
You could even go with it. You don't need a full size. You can go with even a smaller, phone or whatever.
Absolutely.
But that's something just to think about. I was kind of surprised it fried the way that it did.
Yeah. He woke up and he's like, my inReach is not turning on.
Yeah, it was hot.
And then it was like 2 days in, he's like, can I text my wife?
Yeah, I know.
Can I text Ryan? But
so,
yep, that was a fun hunt.
Yeah, the bears we shot were beautiful, nice, mature boars. It's exciting to have that. I leave for one more bear hunt. You're gonna dip out a little bit. You got your son to go take out. So we don't know how the season's going to end for us, but man, what a special hunt. Man, I hope everybody's getting out and getting some bear hunting in.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, this was no gimme. We had a hard time. I think the 2 biggest bears we found were the 2 biggest bears we shot.
Yeah.
People often will talk to us and they'll be like, you guys make it look easy. We put in days.
We did.
We worked hard. Last year was my worst bear hunting year. I didn't shoot a bear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think I put in 21 days.
Yep.
And I didn't get a bear.
Yep.
I think you put in
17
days, didn't get a bear.
Yep.
Ryan put in same thing. He put in, for the amount of days he put in, like 24 or something.
Yeah.
You got a wolf, and Ryan got a wolf, and my little brother got a bear. But man, it was just not.
And we could have shot bears to shoot bears, but we weren't there to just. We personally didn't want to just shoot smaller bears, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, our goal was to find the big bears,
and we had opportunities.
For sure.
We had opportunities to take bears.
Yep.
That we messed up. Frankly.
Yep.
We
didn't
just
capitalize on. Yep. For sure.
So
happens.
That one cuts deep. You need opportunities though.
Yep.
You need more than just the one. Not every opportunity is going to pan out.
Exactly. And the days too. Weather is all.
It's funny though, when you hit a bear season just right and you're in the right pocket.
Yes.
It's like.
It's magical.
They're all moving. The hunt's great.
Yep.
Other times it's dead. Typically we say this all the time. We said it on this hunt on film. Oh, there's a bear. Well, if one bear's moving, all the bears are moving.
Exactly.
Like, start looking. Like, that's not a shooter, but just start paying attention because they seem to have this drive to get up and feed and move the same days of the month, the same weather conditions, the same time of day.
Yep. And I would say this hunt, which was much more different than our experience in other areas, was normally we call prime time at like 10 a.m. for bear hunting. Kind of midday a lot. Like Ryan and I used to, last year and the year before in the one particular area, prime time was 10 a.m. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. was like our prime time.
I would never call that prime time. I would say that that's the earliest that you could spot a bear.
Yeah, see, we were calling it prime time.
Yeah.
Because every bear we saw was, for the most part, was between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
And you figure that out. Like, I'm not saying that didn't happen.
Correct. Right. In that area. Where this particular area, absolutely no movement.
We never saw a bear before 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Never, not once.
Not once.
Nope.
No.
And
on other hunts, we never see a bear move. They always tuck in an hour before dark.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're ghosts an hour before dark.
Yep.
This, they were out up until you couldn't see. Last light.
Yep. I think just different areas, different bears. I don't know, different weather conditions. I don't know what it is. But
there's not a lot of movement, by the way, though. All in all, it feels like in the spring, bears are mostly, until the rut kicks in.
Yes.
They are just sleeping.
Yep.
And eating. they're not moving that much.
They're not
I think,
cruising.
especially if the weather isn't how they like it, they're like,
Mhm.
screw that. I'm just going to sleep for 3 days.
Yep.
I'll wake me up when it's done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just seems that that's their.
Yep.
Takes a minute, I think, for their digestion to ramp up and their hunger and their drive. You think because they came out of hibernation, they must be starving. No, I think they're sluggish. I think they're slow to really get their digestion and drive going.
Their appetite back
yeah.
Yep.
I don't think they get real voracious until later into summer.
Till that June time when they start dropping elk calves a lot of times. So then it's like you can find some bears that are just trailing those elk herds.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of it, folks, for today's episode. We just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about what our experience was like, what we learned.
Yep.
Those are just some things that come to the forefront of my mind right now. Hope you guys are out there having a great hunt. Thanks for tuning in, and catch us on the next episode, and stay gritty.